Well, thank you, Michael. It's yeah. I mean, this is it's the hardest thing I can recall. You coach players. I mean, they become family. Pearl, especially because he came back up because he left early. Came back to finish his degree. He finished his degree here with us. He stayed here. He worked in the area. He worked in New York. Then he came back to start his master's. And the second time the brain tumor was found, this is his second. And so it's very hard to lose a member of your family. You know, you feel like the father, and you feel like he's your son, and you don't want to go. You don't want to have your son going before you do. So
right.
It's a very tough time, and I think Pearl touched so many people. You know. It's obvious that we've had a lot of great players. There's been a lot of great players come from New York City, and I think you could argue better players than Pearl. But I don't think you would argue that you've ever wanted to go to see somebody play as much as you wanted to go see Pearl Washington play. I know as a coach, you go out recruiting, you have to go see players play, and you don't always look forward to it because it's, you know, you see a lot of games. But I used to love going to see Pearl Washington play. I remember the first time I went to see him at the Wheelchair Classic, he was a sophomore, and they let some sophomores, a sophomore play for each of the boroughs in the game, and people were there at 5 o'clock at night. It was at Long Island City. I'll never forget Long Island. It was either at Long Island City or Long Island University, where the wheelchair went back and forth there. And people were there at 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock, just standing. You know, you almost couldn't get in the building. And I said, what is this? You know, Pearl's playing tonight. I mean, he didn't play till 9 o'clock.
Wow.
And people were lined up, and they just yelled his name the whole game. And I remember that first time he's playing against seniors now, the graduating seniors, and I think he had 46. I mean, he just drove by. He was unstoppable with the dribble. He just drove by everybody. It didn't matter who it was, high school or the great Georgetown defenses. They knew he was going to drive, and he could still do it. And he was a unique player. He had a flair for the big moments and the big games, and yet off the court, he's the most humble guy in the world. He didn't know he was a basketball player, and he never said it. I never heard him say "I" like I did. Mm-hmm. I never heard him say that in all the years I've known him. So yeah, I mean, it's a tough loss for us here.
Jim, on a sad day like this, sometimes you think about the good times you had with a person to kind of get you through. So what are some of those memories, those good memories that you have about Pearl?
Well, I remember watching him in high school and doing those things. I remember when he first came here in Syracuse, it was new. We were new in the Carrier Dome, new in the Big East. The league was just starting. Patrick Ewing was at Georgetown, Chris Mullen at St. John's, and we were moving into the Carrier Dome, and we were averaging maybe 18,000. Pearl came in, we went to 25,000. I mean, immediately. He just lit up the building. You know, we had the first year he was here, we had 3 or 4 crowds over 30,000 people, and we never had that before. People wanted to see him play, and he was just so fun, so exciting to be around. I had so many games that he did things. He used to love to come to the Garden. He lit up the Garden, whether we're playing in St. John's or Georgetown in the tournament. He just loved to play in those games and those moments. I remember the time he threw the half-court shot in against Boston College when he was just a freshman. Before the ball got to the basket, he was already off the court. He knew. He told me, he said, "I knew that was in, Coach. I knew when it left my hand." And I said, "Okay." But, I mean, he was one of a kind. He was a unique player, and I'm just happy that I had the chance to coach him. But it's tough to lose somebody like Pearl Washington so early.
Jim, I covered him when I covered college basketball with your team at the Post, and then I was covering the Nets when he was drafted. And I thought you said it so well where, he was so dynamic on the court, but he was such a gentle soul off the court. And, I mean, Is that a rare combination for a star player like that?
I think it's very rare. I mean, and there's a lot of good guys off the court, but not to the depth of Pearl. He didn't want anybody to know he was a basketball player. He didn't care if anybody knew. Summers up here, he'd go out in the country and ride a horse or just get away from basketball. He was the most humble of all the players that I've ever coached or seen or been around. Most great players, they have a little edge, a little cockiness, and that's why they were great. Pearl had none of that. He didn't. He was just the nicest, most humble guy that I've ever been around, and it's just been very difficult. We knew this was coming, but it doesn't matter when you know something's coming when it's like this. It's just I was just glad this year we made the run. I remember I talked to him. I called him just when we made it back to the Final Four, and he couldn't talk much, but he was just so happy that we made it and that the players chose this year. Our own players chose to wear his shirt, the Pearl shirt, for when they were warming up, and I thought it was a great sign of respect from our young players who didn't really see Pearl Washington play.